You wake up every morning with the same secret frustration. You know you're capable of more, yet you find yourself surrendering to the same old patterns, checking your phone when you should be working, saying yes when you mean no, letting other people's opinions dictate your next move. You're tired of being a passenger in your own life, aren't you? But here's what most people will never tell you. That restless feeling inside you isn't weakness. It's your inner giant trying to break free from the mental chains you've unknowingly wrapped around yourself. Every successful person who has ever walked this earth discovered one fundamental truth. The battlefield where your destiny is won or lost isn't out there in the world. It's right here, between your ears. Today, you're going to discover how to stop being the victim of your own mind and become its master. This isn't about willpower or forcing yourself through another failed attempt at change. This is about a complete transformation of who you are at your core. You're going to learn how to plant thoughts that grow into unshakable habits, how to turn your failures into stepping stones, and how to develop the kind of inner strength that makes success inevitable. The person who finishes watching this video will not be the same person who started it. You're about to unlock the secret that separates those who dream from those who achieve. The power to govern your thoughts, control your impulses, and direct your energy toward what truly matters. This is your moment, the moment you stop making excuses and start making changes that stick. If you're ready to finally take control of your mind and build the self-discipline that will transform every area of your life, then stay with me. And if this resonates with something deep inside you, subscribe now, because what you're about to learn will change everything. Number 1, mastering the mind is mastering freedom. Look around you right now. How many people do you see who are truly free? Not free from work, not free from responsibilities, but free from the invisible chains that bind them to mediocrity. The harsh truth is this: most people are prisoners of their own minds, and they don't even know it. Every morning they wake up and hand over control to their impulses, fear whispers and they retreat, doubt speaks and they hesitate. Other people's opinions become their compass, and circumstances become their master. They live reactive lives, bouncing from one external stimulus to another like a pinball in a machine they cannot escape. Here's what I've discovered after studying thousands of successful individuals. True freedom is not the absence of challenges. It is the presence of choice. When your mind is disciplined, you choose your response to every situation. When your mind is weak, life chooses for you. Imagine a wild horse, powerful and magnificent, but untamed. It runs wherever its instincts take it, often into danger, always without direction. Now picture that same horse after months of patient training. It still possesses all its power, but now that power serves a purpose. The horse has not lost its strength. It has gained mastery. Your mind is that horse. Right now, it may be running wild, carrying you toward fear, toward comfort, toward the opinions of others, but the moment you take the reins, everything changes. You don't suppress its power, you direct it. I once knew a man who changed cities 5 times in 10 years, always believing his problems were tied to his location. New York was too fast, he said. Los Angeles was too superficial. Chicago was too cold. But wherever he went, there he was, carrying the same mental patterns, the same internal conflicts, the same limited thinking. His geography changed, but his destiny remained the same. The moment you realize that your external world is merely a reflection of your internal world, everything shifts. You stop running from your problems and start transforming the mind that created them. Self-discipline becomes your greatest ally. It teaches you to pause between stimulus and response. It shows you that you can feel fear and still move forward, experience doubt and still take action, hear criticism and still believe in yourself. This is not about becoming emotionless. It's about becoming choiceful. Begin today with one simple practice. Before you react to anything, ask yourself, am I responding from strength or from weakness? Am I choosing my path or is my path choosing me? The person who can answer these questions honestly has already begun the journey toward true freedom. Number 2, the mind is fertile ground. You've been planting seeds all your life, and you may not even realize it. Every thought you entertain, every belief you accept, Every emotion you nurture becomes a seed in the fertile soil of your subconscious mind. And here's the troubling truth. Your mind doesn't distinguish between good seeds and bad seeds. It simply grows whatever you plant. Right now, in this very moment, there are thoughts taking root in your mind that will determine your reality 6 months from now. Are they thoughts of possibility or limitation? Seeds of courage or seeds of fear? The frightening thing is that most people are unconscious gardeners, randomly scattering whatever happens to blow their way. Your mind operates on a simple but profound principle. What you consistently think about expands. Plant thoughts of failure, and you'll harvest disappointment. Sow seeds of doubt, and you'll reap hesitation. But plant unwavering faith in your potential, and you'll witness miracles unfold in your life. Consider the farmer who prepares his field each spring. He doesn't just throw seeds randomly and hope for the best. He clears the weeds, enriches the soil, plants with intention, and guards his crop against destructive elements. He knows that a moment of carelessness can ruin an entire season's work. Your mental garden requires the same vigilance. Every negative thought is a weed trying to choke out your dreams. Every limiting belief is a pest attempting to destroy your potential. But unlike the farmer who must wait for seasons to change, you can transform your mental harvest immediately. There was a woman I knew who spent years convinced she wasn't intelligent enough to start her own business. Every day she watered that seed of inadequacy with thoughts like, "I'm not smart enough," and "other people are more qualified." For 5 years, that belief grew stronger, creating a reality where she remained trapped in unfulfilling work. But then something remarkable happened. She began to notice her mental patterns. She started pulling out those weeds of self-doubt the moment they appeared, replacing them with seeds of possibility. "I am capable of learning," became her new refrain. "I have unique value to offer," replaced her old limiting beliefs. Within 18 months, she had built a thriving business that exceeded her wildest expectations. The same mind that once limited her became the fertile ground for her greatest achievements. Here's your practical starting point. Become the conscious gardener of your thoughts. When you catch your mind wandering toward fear, doubt, or limitation, stop immediately. Replace that thought with its empowering opposite. See your success with such clarity and emotion that your subconscious has no choice but to work toward making it real. Remember this, you are both the gardener and the garden. What you plant today, you will harvest tomorrow. Number 3, declare your purpose aloud. There's a question that haunts millions of people as they lie awake at night. What am I doing with my life? They feel like ships without anchors, drifting wherever the current takes them. Days blend into weeks, weeks into months, and still they cannot answer that fundamental question that gives meaning to existence. Without purpose, you become a passenger in your own life. You respond to whatever demands your attention, chase whatever opportunity presents itself, and wonder why nothing ever feels quite right. You're busy, but not fulfilled. You're moving, but not progressing toward anything meaningful. But here's what changes everything. The moment you declare your purpose aloud, you stop drifting and start directing. Your voice carries power that silent thoughts cannot match. When you speak your purpose with conviction, you activate forces within your subconscious mind that have been lying dormant, waiting for clear instruction. Picture a lighthouse standing firm against crashing waves. No matter how fierce the storm, its light never wavers. It knows its purpose to guide ships safely home. Your declared purpose becomes that lighthouse in your life, providing direction when circumstances try to pull you off course. I remember a man who worked the same job for 15 years, feeling increasingly empty despite his success. He had money, respect, even recognition, but something vital was missing. Then one morning, he stood in front of his mirror and spoke these words: "My purpose is to inspire others to discover their hidden potential through the stories I tell." It was the first time he had ever articulated what truly mattered to him. Something powerful happened in that moment. His mind began to notice opportunities he had been blind to before. Conversations took on new meaning. Ideas began flowing. Within 2 years, he had transitioned from his corporate role to becoming a sought-after speaker and author. The magic wasn't in the words themselves, but in the act of declaring them with absolute conviction. When you speak your purpose aloud, you're not just telling the world who you are. You're commanding your subconscious to align every thought, every decision, every action with that declared intention. Make this your daily practice. Each morning before you begin your day, and each evening before you rest, speak your purpose aloud. Not mumbled under your breath, but declared with the same authority you would use to introduce yourself to someone important. Because that's exactly what you're doing. You're introducing your conscious mind to your highest self. Your purpose doesn't have to be perfect from the start. It will evolve as you grow, deepen as you understand yourself better, and expand as your capacity increases. What matters is that you begin, that you give your life direction instead of leaving it to chance. Stop whispering your dreams and start declaring your purpose. The world is waiting to hear what you came here to do. Number 4, the power of extra effort. Watch people around you for just one day, and you'll notice something disturbing. Most individuals do exactly what is required and nothing more. They arrive precisely on time, leave the moment they can, and contribute the bare minimum to get by. They've trained themselves to live at the lowest acceptable standard, and then they wonder why their lives feel so ordinary. But there exists a small group of people who understand a secret that transforms everything: the power of going one step further than expected. They don't do this because someone is watching or because they'll be rewarded immediately. They do it because they understand that extra effort is the compound interest of character development. Extra effort isn't about working yourself into exhaustion or saying yes to every request. It's about bringing a quality of care and presence to whatever you're doing that elevates the ordinary into something meaningful. It's about asking, how can I make this better? Instead of, how quickly can I finish this? Think of a master craftsman shaping a piece of wood. He could stop when the piece is functional, but he continues until it becomes beautiful. That extra attention, that additional care, transforms a simple object into a work of art. Your daily actions are the same raw material, waiting for your extra effort to transform them into something extraordinary. I once observed a young waitress in a small diner who embodied this principle perfectly. While her colleagues took orders and delivered food mechanically, she remembered customers' names, noticed when someone seemed troubled, and always found small ways to brighten people's day. She wasn't paid extra for this effort. No one demanded it from her. But something remarkable began to happen. Customers started requesting her section specifically. Her tips increased dramatically. The owner noticed her dedication and offered her management training. Within a year, she was running her own restaurant. That extra smile, that additional moment of genuine care, had compounded into a completely transformed life. Here's what most people never realize. Extra effort creates energy rather than depleting it. When you give more than required, you activate a positive feedback loop. You feel proud of your work, which increases your enthusiasm, which improves your performance, which creates better results, which reinforces your commitment to excellence. Every time you choose to go beyond what's expected, you're not just improving that particular situation. You're training your character, strengthening your discipline, and building a reputation that opens doors you never knew existed. Begin today with this simple practice. In every interaction, every task, every moment of your day, ask yourself, what would going the extra mile look like here? Then do that one additional thing, however small it might seem. The person who consistently gives more than they receive doesn't have to chase success. Success chases them. Number 5, gratitude as a multiplier. There's a poison running through the minds of millions of people, and they drink it willingly every single day. It's the poison of perpetual dissatisfaction, the constant focus on what's missing, what's wrong, what they don't have yet. They wake up counting their problems instead of their blessings, and they wonder why their days feel so heavy. But scattered throughout the world are individuals who have discovered one of the most powerful forces for transformation that exists: authentic gratitude. Not forced positivity or fake optimism, but genuine appreciation for what already exists in their lives right now. Gratitude is not just a nice feeling or a spiritual practice. It's a mental technology that rewrites the operating system of your mind. When you consistently focus on what you're grateful for, you train your brain to scan for abundance instead of scarcity, for opportunities instead of obstacles, for possibilities instead of problems. Imagine two people looking at the same rose garden. One sees the thorns and complains about the danger. The other sees the blooms and marvels at the beauty. They're looking at identical reality, but their focus creates completely different experiences. Your habitual mental focus becomes your lived reality. There was a woman I knew who lost her job during a difficult economic period. For weeks, she spiraled into bitterness, focusing on the unfairness, the uncertainty, the fear of what might happen next. But then she made a decision that changed everything. Every morning, she would write down 3 things she was genuinely grateful for, no matter how small. At first, it felt forced. I'm grateful for my morning coffee. I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my friends' support. But as days turned into weeks, something extraordinary began to happen. Her energy shifted. She started noticing opportunities she had been blind to before. Her conversations became more positive, attracting people who wanted to help rather than those who shared her complaints. Within 3 months, she had not only found a new position, but had discovered work that aligned with her deepest values, something she never would have pursued if she hadn't been forced out of her comfort zone. This is the multiplying power of gratitude. When you appreciate what you have, you create space for more good to enter your life. It's not magic, it's practical psychology. Grateful people are more attractive to be around, more creative in solving problems, more resilient in facing challenges, and more likely to notice the opportunities that surround them daily. Here's your transformative practice. Every morning, before you check your phone or read the news, speak aloud 3 specific things you're grateful for. Not general statements, but detailed appreciations. Instead of "I'm grateful for my family," try "I'm grateful for the way my daughter laughs when she tells me about her day." This specificity activates the emotional centers of your brain, making the practice more powerful than mere intellectual acknowledgement. Gratitude is not about denying problems or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to build your life on the foundation of what's working rather than what's broken. From that foundation, you become strong enough to handle whatever challenges arise. Number 6, transforming hatred into compassion. Right now, someone has wronged you. Maybe it was years ago, maybe it was yesterday, but somewhere in your heart, you're carrying the weight of resentment. You replay the injustice in your mind, rehearse the anger, feed the flames of indignation. You believe you're punishing them with your hatred, but here's the brutal truth. You're only poisoning yourself. Hatred is like swallowing poison and expecting the other person to die. Every moment you spend nurturing resentment is a moment stolen from your own peace, your own growth, your own potential for happiness. The person who hurt you may have moved on completely, while you remain trapped in a prison of your own making. But what if I told you that your greatest pain could become your greatest strength? That the very people who wounded you could become the catalysts for your most profound transformation? This isn't about forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't matter. This is about choosing to free yourself from the chains of bitterness. Compassion is not weakness disguised as spirituality. It's the ultimate demonstration of inner strength. It takes tremendous power to look at someone who has caused you pain and choose understanding over vengeance, healing over hatred, freedom over the familiar comfort of resentment. Picture a garden where weeds have taken root. You can spend all your energy cutting them down, but unless you transform the soil itself, they'll keep growing back. Your heart is that garden, and every act of compassion changes the very soil where resentment tries to grow. I once knew a man whose business partner betrayed him, stealing not just money but years of trust and friendship. For months, he was consumed with rage, plotting legal revenge, losing sleep over imagined confrontations. The betrayal was eating him alive from the inside. Then one evening, sitting alone in his empty office, he made a decision that shocked everyone who knew him. He chose to pray for his former partner's well-being. Not because he condoned the betrayal, not because he wanted to reconcile, but because he realized that carrying hatred was destroying the very success he was trying to protect. It wasn't easy. At first, the words felt hollow, forced, but gradually something miraculous began to happen. The weight he had been carrying started to lift. His energy returned. His creativity flourished. Within a year, he had built a more successful business than before, surrounded by people who shared his values. Here's what he discovered. Forgiveness is not about the other person deserving it, it's about you deserving peace. When you release someone from the prison of your resentment, you're not setting them free, you're liberating yourself. Try this transformative practice. Think of someone who has hurt you deeply. Instead of rehearsing your anger, try this simple phrase. I wish for you to find peace, to heal from whatever pain caused you to act this way, and to become the person you were meant to be. You don't have to feel it immediately, just say it and watch how something shifts inside you. This is not about reconciliation or even communication. This is about cleansing your own heart so you can move forward unencumbered. The strongest people are not those who never get hurt, but those who transform their pain into compassion for others. Number 7, closing the door to the past. You wake up every morning carrying yesterday's failures on your shoulders. In quiet moments, your mind drifts back to that decision you regret, that opportunity you missed, that person who left, that version of yourself you can never be again. You've become a curator of painful memories, replaying them with such vivid detail that they feel more real than the present moment. But here's what's happening. Every time you revisit those old wounds, you're not just remembering the past, you're recreating it. You're giving it power over your present and permission to shape your future. You've turned your mind into a prison where you serve as both the guard and the prisoner. The past should be your teacher, not your master. Yes, learn from what happened, extract the wisdom, honor the experience. But then, with deliberate intention, close that door and turn your attention toward what you're building now. Imagine trying to drive forward while constantly staring in the rearview mirror. You might see where you've been with perfect clarity, but you'll inevitably crash into whatever lies ahead. Your future requires your full attention, not the divided focus of someone still emotionally living in yesterday. There's tremendous power in ritual, in making the invisible visible through symbolic action. Sometimes your mind needs concrete evidence that you're ready to move forward, not just the intention to do so. I remember a woman who had been carrying guilt over a business failure for nearly 3 years. Every time she considered starting again, that old shame would rise up and convince her she wasn't worthy of success. She was trapped in an endless loop of regret and self-punishment. One evening, she sat down and wrote a letter to her past self. She acknowledged the pain, expressed forgiveness for the mistakes, and thanked that earlier version of herself for the lessons learned. Then she took that letter outside and burned it, watching the smoke carry her old story away into the night sky. It wasn't magic, but something profound shifted. For the first time in years, she felt truly free to begin again. Within 6 months, she had launched a new venture that surpassed her previous success because it was built on wisdom rather than naivety, on strength rather than fear. This is what closure looks like, not pretending the past didn't happen, but refusing to let it dictate what happens next. You acknowledge what was, you extract what serves you, and you release what weighs you down. Here's your liberation practice. Identify one past event that still has emotional control over you. Write it down in detail. Then write what you learned from it, what it taught you about yourself, about others, about life. Finally, write a statement of release. I acknowledge this experience, I honor the lessons it taught me, and I now choose to focus my energy on creating my future. Some people find power in literally burning this writing. Others prefer to bury it. The specific ritual matters less than your genuine intention to close that chapter and begin writing a new one. Your past is not your prison unless you choose to live there. Today you can decide that your story is not about what happened to you, but about what you choose to create from this moment forward. The door to your past can be closed. The door to your future is wide open. Number 8, building a success mindset. Here's a question that will reveal everything about your current trajectory. When you think about yourself, what story do you tell? Are you the person who always struggles with money, who never gets the breaks, who isn't good at that sort of thing? Because whatever story you're telling yourself about who you are, your subconscious mind is working tirelessly to make it true. Most people have built their identity around their limitations, their past failures, their current circumstances. They introduce themselves by their problems, define themselves by their struggles, and wonder why their lives keep reflecting those very same patterns back to them. But success isn't something that happens to you from the outside. It's something that emerges from within when you align your inner identity with your outer aspirations. Before you can live like a successful person, you must first think like one, speak like one, and most importantly, see yourself as one. Your mind cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. This is not metaphysical theory, it's neurological fact. When you consistently imagine yourself as successful, confident, and capable, your brain begins forming the neural pathways that support those qualities in real life. Think of an actor preparing for a role. They don't just memorize lines, they study the character's walk, their speech patterns, their inner motivations. They become so immersed in the role that the character feels natural, authentic. Your successful self is a role you must learn to inhabit with the same dedication and conviction. I once worked with a woman who had been struggling financially for years. Despite her intelligence and work ethic, she couldn't seem to break through to the next level. When I listened to how she spoke about money, the pattern became clear. "I'm terrible with finances," she would say. "Rich people are different from me. I wasn't born with a business mind." I challenged her to spend 30 days speaking about money the way a wealthy person would. Instead of "I can't afford it," she would say, "That's not how I choose to spend my money right now." Instead of "I'm broke," she would say, "I'm building my wealth strategically." At first, the words felt foreign, almost dishonest, but something remarkable began to happen. As her language changed, her thinking shifted. As her thinking shifted, her actions followed. She started seeing opportunities she had been blind to before, making decisions from abundance rather than scarcity. Within a year, her income had tripled, not because the words were magic, but because changing her language had changed her identity, and changing her identity had changed her behavior. Here's your transformation protocol. Every morning, stand in front of a mirror and speak to yourself as the successful person you're becoming. Use present tense statements. "I am confident in my abilities. I attract opportunities that align with my values. I make decisions from wisdom and strength." Don't wait until you feel successful to start thinking this way. Think this way consistently, and the feelings and results will follow. Equally important, examine the voices you allow into your mental space. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, they're all programming your subconscious mind. Surround yourself with examples of what's possible, not reminders of what's impossible. Your current circumstances are not your permanent identity. They're simply the result of your previous thinking. Change your thinking, and you change everything else. Number 9, choosing a model of inspiration. You're trying to build a life of success and significance, but you're doing it blindfolded, stumbling through trial and error, making the same mistakes that millions before you have already solved. Meanwhile, scattered throughout history and living among us today are individuals who have already walked the path you're trying to navigate. They've faced the challenges you're facing, overcome the obstacles you're encountering, and achieved the results you're seeking. The question is, why are you choosing to learn everything the hard way when you could study their blueprint and accelerate your progress by decades? Every master craftsman once served as an apprentice, learning not just techniques but ways of thinking, patterns of behavior, standards of excellence that would have taken a lifetime to develop alone. Your success journey deserves the same strategic approach. But here's where most people go wrong. They try to copy someone else's external actions without understanding the internal principles that made those actions effective. They see the tactics but miss the mindset, notice the habits but overlook the beliefs that created those habits. Think of it like trying to replicate a master chef's signature dish by only watching their hands move. You might get the ingredients right, even follow the same steps, but without understanding their intuition, their timing, their deeper knowledge of how flavors interact, your result will be a pale imitation of the original. When you choose a model of inspiration, you're not looking for someone to mimic superficially. You're seeking someone whose core principles, whose approach to challenges, whose way of thinking about possibilities resonates with your deepest values and highest aspirations. I knew a young entrepreneur who was struggling to build his first business. He was making every mistake possible, learning each lesson through painful experience. Then he decided to study a successful businessman whose values aligned with his own. Not just their strategies, but their morning routines, their decision-making processes, their responses to failure, their methods of continuous learning. He read their books, watched their interviews, studied their journey from beginning to breakthrough. Most importantly, he began asking himself in difficult moments, how would they approach this situation? What principles would guide their decision here? This wasn't hero worship or imitation. It was strategic learning. Within 2 years, he had built a thriving company while avoiding the common pitfalls that destroy most startups. He had compressed decades of learning into months of focused study and application. Your model of inspiration should reflect not just success, but success achieved in alignment with your values. Choose someone whose journey resonates with your soul, not just your ambitions. Someone who faced similar challenges to yours and emerged stronger, wiser, more capable. Study them deeply. Read their words. Understand their failures as much as their victories. Learn how they think about problems, how they handle pressure, how they maintain motivation when others doubt them. Here's your practical approach. Identify 3 people whose success and character you genuinely admire. Study one deeply each month. Read their biography, watch their interviews, understand their principles. Most importantly, begin incorporating their mental models into your own decision-making process. Ask yourself regularly, what would they do in this situation? How would they think about this challenge? What principles would guide their next action? You don't need to reinvent the wheel of success. The blueprint already exists. Your job is to study it, adapt it to your unique circumstances, and apply it with consistency and conviction. The fastest path to extraordinary results is modeling extraordinary people. Number 10, turning failure into seeds of blessing. Right now, you're carrying wounds that you believe make you weaker. Failures that haunt your confidence, defeats that whisper lies about your capabilities, setbacks that feel like evidence that success isn't meant for you. But what if I told you that these very experiences, the ones you're trying to forget, contain the seeds of your greatest triumphs? Every person who has achieved something significant has a collection of failures that would humble most people. The difference is not that they avoided defeat, but that they learned to extract wisdom from pain, to transform setbacks into setups for comebacks. Most people experience failure and ask the wrong question. Why did this happen to me? This question leads nowhere but self-pity and resentment. But there's another question, a powerful one that changes everything. What is this here to teach me? How can this experience make me stronger, wiser, more capable than I was before? The moment you shift from victim to student, everything changes. Pain becomes your teacher, not your tormentor. Failure becomes your coach, not your enemy. What felt like the end of your story becomes the beginning of a new chapter. Picture a blacksmith forging a sword. The metal must be heated to extreme temperatures, hammered repeatedly, folded and refolded under intense pressure. To an observer, it might look like the metal is being destroyed. But the blacksmith knows that each strike, each moment of intense heat, is making the metal stronger, more resilient, more capable of holding a sharp edge. Your failures are that forge. Every disappointment that doesn't break you makes you more resilient. Every mistake that you learn from makes you wiser. Every setback that you overcome makes you more confident in your ability to handle whatever life presents. I once knew a man who lost everything in a business venture that he had poured 5 years of his life into. His savings were gone, his reputation damaged, his confidence shattered. For months, he wallowed in self-pity and blame, but then something shifted. He began to examine what had gone wrong, not to torture himself, but to understand. He realized he had ignored warning signs, trusted the wrong people, made decisions based on hope rather than facts. These were painful realizations, but they were also invaluable insights. When he started his next venture, he was no longer the naive optimist who had lost everything. He was a seasoned entrepreneur who understood both the potential and the pitfalls of business. His second company not only succeeded, but thrived because it was built on the wisdom extracted from his failure. More importantly, he began sharing his story with other entrepreneurs, helping them avoid the same costly mistakes. His failure had become his qualification to help others succeed. This is the ultimate transformation. When your pain becomes your purpose, when your struggles become your strength, when your failures become the foundation for helping others avoid the same pitfalls. Here's your reframing practice. Identify your most significant failure or disappointment. Instead of rehearsing the pain, ask yourself these questions. What did this experience teach me about myself? About others? About how the world works? How has this failure, despite the pain it caused, actually prepared me for future success? Write down these insights. They are not consolation prizes for your suffering. They are the actual treasures hidden within your trials. Your failures are not evidence of your inadequacy. They are proof of your courage to attempt something meaningful. Honor them by extracting every lesson they offer, then use that wisdom to build something beautiful from the ashes of what didn't work. The strongest trees are those that have weathered the fiercest storms. Number 11, mastering physical desires. You know the feeling intimately. The impulse rises suddenly, demanding immediate satisfaction. Maybe it's the urge to eat when you're not hungry, to seek pleasure when you should be working, to indulge in comfort when you need to push through discomfort. In that moment, you feel powerless, as if some primitive part of your brain has hijacked your better judgment. Most people believe they are at the mercy of these impulses, that desires are something that happen to them rather than something they can consciously direct. They live as slaves to their appetites, wondering why their lives feel so out of control, why their highest aspirations keep getting derailed by their lowest impulses. But here's the truth that will set you free. Your desires are not your master unless you choose to make them so. You have the power to pause between impulse and action, to choose your response rather than react automatically. This is not about suppression or denial. It's about conscious choice. Your body is not your enemy. Your desires are not inherently evil. They are natural parts of human experience, designed to ensure survival and reproduction. But in our modern world, these ancient impulses often work against our higher goals, our long-term well-being, our deepest values. The key is learning to experience desire without being controlled by it, to acknowledge impulses without immediately acting on them. This creates space for wisdom to enter, for your higher self to make the decision rather than your reactive self. Think of a skilled horseman managing a powerful stallion. He doesn't try to break the horse's spirit or eliminate its strength. Instead, he learns to direct that power toward a chosen destination. Your desires are that stallion, powerful, natural, but requiring conscious guidance to serve your greater purpose. I remember a time when I struggled with this very challenge. Every afternoon, I would feel the urge to abandon my work for easier pleasures. Reading became watching television. Writing became snacking. Productive solitude became social distraction. I felt weak, undisciplined, disappointed in myself. Then I learned to create a pause between the impulse and the action. When the urge arose, instead of immediately giving in or fighting it, I would simply observe it. I notice I want to stop working and do something easier. This is natural. What choice serves my larger goals? Sometimes I honored the impulse if rest was truly needed, but most often I chose to continue with my intended activity. The desire would pass, like a wave that rises and naturally falls. And in making that conscious choice, I felt stronger, more aligned with my values, more in control of my destiny. This is the practice of mindful choice. Recognizing the impulse, understanding its message, but making your decision based on wisdom rather than instinct. It's acknowledging that you feel like eating when you're not hungry, but choosing nourishment based on your body's actual needs. It's feeling the pull toward immediate pleasure, but choosing actions that serve your long-term happiness. Here's your mastery practice. The next time you feel a strong physical impulse, stop and breathe 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what is this desire asking for? What would choosing this give me? What would choosing differently give me? Which choice aligns with the person I'm becoming? Then make your choice consciously, from awareness rather than automaticity. Whether you honor the impulse or redirect it, do so from a place of conscious decision rather than unconscious reaction. This is not about becoming emotionless or denying your humanity. It's about becoming the conscious director of your life rather than the unconscious victim of your impulses. True freedom comes not from getting everything you want, but from wanting what serves your highest good. Number 12. Silencing judgment and criticism. Listen to the conversations around you for just 1 hour, and you'll discover something disturbing about human nature. The majority of words spoken are not building anything beautiful or meaningful. Instead, they're tearing down, criticizing, gossiping, complaining, judging. People seem more energized by discussing what's wrong with others than by exploring what's possible for themselves. But here's what they don't realize. Every word of criticism you speak about another person is actually poison you're drinking yourself. Every judgment you voice is a burden you're placing on your own soul. Every moment you spend focused on someone else's flaws is a moment stolen from your own growth and peace. Your words are not neutral. They carry energy, intention, consequence. When you speak negatively about others, you're not just describing external reality. You're programming your internal reality. You're training your mind to see problems rather than possibilities, to focus on what's wrong rather than what's working. Most people believe that silence means having nothing to say, that it's a sign of weakness or disengagement. But true silence is one of the most powerful forces in human interaction. It's the conscious choice to protect your inner peace by refusing to participate in the degradation of others. Silence gives you something precious: the ability to observe without immediately reacting, to understand without needing to judge, to witness human behavior without feeling compelled to fix, change, or criticize everyone around you. Imagine your mind as a pristine lake. Every criticism you speak is like throwing a stone into that water, creating ripples that disturb the surface and cloud the depths. But when you choose silence, when you refuse to participate in judgment and gossip, that lake remains clear, allowing you to see with perfect clarity. I once worked with a man who was known for his sharp wit and cutting observations about others. He prided himself on being able to identify everyone's weaknesses, to point out flaws that others missed. He thought this made him insightful, superior. But over time, something troubling began to happen. His relationships became shallow because people didn't trust him with their vulnerabilities. His own self-image became harsh and critical because the lens through which he viewed others had become the lens through which he viewed himself. His mind, trained to find fault, couldn't stop finding fault even in his own life. Then he made a commitment that transformed everything. For 30 days, he would speak no critical words about anyone, including himself. When the urge arose to point out someone's mistake or flaw, he would simply remain silent. When others engaged in gossip around him, he would change the subject or excuse himself. At first, he felt like he had nothing to contribute to conversations, but gradually, something beautiful emerged. His words became more thoughtful, more encouraging, more focused on solutions rather than problems. People began seeking his counsel because they sensed his non-judgmental presence. Most remarkably, his own inner critic began to quiet, replaced by a gentler, more supportive inner voice. This is the power of conscious silence. It doesn't make you passive or weak. It makes you selective about where you invest your mental and emotional energy. It transforms you from someone who points out problems to someone who creates solutions. Here's your practice of protective silence. For the next 7 days, commit to speaking no critical words about any person. When the urge arises, pause and ask yourself, will these words build something beautiful or tear something down? Will they increase understanding or spread negativity? If you must address problems, focus on actions and solutions, not character assassination. Instead of, she's so lazy, try, I notice this task isn't getting completed. How can we address this? Watch how this simple change affects not just your relationships, but your own inner peace, your ability to see clearly, your capacity for genuine wisdom. Your silence can be more powerful than your words. Use it wisely. Number 13, persevering when no one believes. There comes a moment in every journey towards something meaningful when you realize you're walking alone. The people who once encouraged your dreams now suggest you be realistic. Friends who supported your vision when it was just talk become skeptical when you actually start pursuing it. Family members who love you begin expressing concern about your choices, your future, your apparent obsession with something they don't understand. This is the moment that separates those who merely dream from those who achieve. It's easy to pursue your goals when others believe in you, when you have cheerleaders and supporters. But what happens when the applause stops? When the encouragement turns to doubt? When you're left with nothing but your own inner conviction to sustain you? Most people crumble at this point. They interpret the lack of external support as evidence that they should quit, that their dreams are unrealistic, that they should settle for something safer, something that makes sense to others. They trade their vision for approval, their potential for comfort, but embedded within every person who has ever accomplished something significant is a quiet fire that burns regardless of external validation. It's the ability to believe in yourself when no one else does, to keep working when no one is watching, to maintain faith in your vision when the whole world seems to doubt it. This solitary perseverance is not loneliness, it's leadership. You're not abandoned, you're pioneering. Every great achievement began with someone who was willing to stand alone with their conviction, to work in obscurity, to continue when quitting would have been easier and more socially acceptable. Think of a lighthouse keeper tending his light through the darkest storms. No one sees his work. No one applauds his dedication. Ships pass safely because of his vigilance, but they never know his name. Yet he continues, night after night, because he understands that his purpose is larger than his need for recognition. I knew a woman who spent 3 years developing a business idea that everyone around her dismissed as impractical. Her spouse worried about their financial security. Her friends suggested she find a real job. Potential investors passed on her concept, often with barely concealed amusement. There were nights when she sat alone at her kitchen table, working on her project while everyone else slept, wondering if she was delusional, if everyone else could see something she couldn't. The doubt was crushing, the isolation painful. But there was something inside her that refused to quit. Not arrogance or stubbornness, but a quiet knowing that her idea had merit even if others couldn't see it yet. She continued refining, improving, believing when belief seemed illogical. 2 years later, that impractical idea became a thriving company that employed dozens of people and solved a problem millions didn't even know they had. The same people who had doubted her now asked for her advice, wanted to understand her success, claimed they had always believed in her. This is the pattern. First you're ignored, then you're ridiculed, then you're fought, then you win. But only if you can endure the first 3 phases without losing faith in the 4th. Here's what sustains you through the lonely periods. Remember that pioneers always walk alone at first. The crowd follows paths that have already been proven safe. Innovation, creativity, and breakthrough require someone willing to venture into uncharted territory. Your practice of solitary strength. When doubt creeps in, when others question your choices, when the world seems aligned against your dreams, return to your core reason for pursuing this path. Not the external rewards you hope to gain, but the internal knowing that this is your work to do. Write down this commitment. I will continue this work not because others believe in it, but because I believe in it. Not because it's easy, but because it's mine to do. The world doesn't need another person doing what everyone expects. It needs you doing what only you can envision. Persevere quietly. Success will eventually make all the noise necessary. Number 14. Training the mind to reject failure. Before you even step into the arena, before you make the first phone call, before you take the first action toward your goal, there's a battle being fought that will determine your outcome. It's the battle in your mind between the possibility of success and the expectation of failure. Most people lose this battle before they even begin. They approach their goals with their minds already prepared for defeat, already rehearsing excuses, already planning their retreat. They say they want to succeed, but their mental preparation is training them for failure. But there exists a different way of thinking, a mental discipline practiced by every person who has achieved something extraordinary. They train their minds to reject failure as an option, not through denial or false optimism, but through deliberate mental preparation that programs their subconscious for victory. Your subconscious mind is like a guided missile system. It will move you toward whatever target you've programmed into it. If you've programmed it with images of failure, with expectations of defeat, with detailed scenarios of everything that could go wrong, it will guide you toward those very outcomes with remarkable precision. But when you program it with vivid images of success, with detailed visualizations of achieving your goals, with the emotional experience of victory, it begins working around the clock to make that vision your reality. This is not wishful thinking or magical beliefs. This is practical psychology. Your mind cannot tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you repeatedly visualize success with emotional intensity, you're literally creating neural pathways that support successful behavior. Picture a soldier preparing for battle. He doesn't spend his training time imagining all the ways he might be defeated. Instead, he practices his maneuvers until they become automatic. Visualizes successful missions until confidence becomes natural, prepares his mind for victory until retreat becomes unthinkable. Your goals deserve the same mental preparation. Every morning you should spend time seeing yourself achieving what you're working toward, not just the end result, but the process. See yourself making the difficult phone calls with confidence. Imagine yourself handling rejection with grace and persistence. Visualize yourself solving problems with creativity and determination. I once worked with an entrepreneur who was preparing to launch a product that would make or break his company. For months, he had been consumed with anxiety, imagining all the ways it might fail, rehearsing conversations with disappointed investors, planning how he would explain the failure to his family. I challenged him to reverse this mental programming. Every morning for 30 days, he would spend 20 minutes visualizing the successful launch, imagining customers loving the product, seeing himself confidently handling interviews and presentations, experiencing the satisfaction of achieving his goal. At first, it felt artificial, almost dishonest, but gradually something remarkable happened. His posture changed, his voice became more confident, his presentations improved dramatically. When challenges arose during the actual launch, he handled them with a calmness and creativity that surprised even him. The product succeeded beyond his initial projections, but the real transformation was in him. He had learned to prepare his mind for victory instead of defeat. Here's your mental training protocol. Every morning before you begin your day, spend 10 minutes in detailed visualization of your success. See yourself accomplishing your most important goal. Feel the emotions you'll experience when you achieve it. Hear the conversations you'll have. See the recognition you'll receive. Experience the pride you'll feel. Then throughout the day, when challenges arise, when doubt creeps in, when obstacles appear, remind yourself of this simple truth. I do not return without victory. I was not put on this earth to fail. Every challenge is an opportunity to prove my strength. This is not arrogance, it's preparation. You're training your mind to see solutions instead of problems, to focus on possibilities instead of limitations, to expect success instead of failure. Your mind will take you wherever you consistently direct it. Direct it toward victory, and victory becomes inevitable. Number 15, discipline as protection from illness. There's something you've probably noticed but never fully understood. The people around you who seem to age gracefully, who maintain their energy while others fade, who remain sharp and vibrant while their peers succumb to countless ailments, they all share one invisible characteristic. It's not superior genetics or expensive treatments, it's something far more powerful and completely within your control. They possess a disciplined mind that refuses to accept decline as inevitable. While others surrender to the belief that deterioration is natural, that weakness is acceptable, that giving up is reasonable, these individuals maintain an inner fire that burns away the seeds of decay before they can take root. Your body is not a separate entity from your mind. It's the physical expression of your mental state, the visible manifestation of your inner discipline or lack thereof. When your mind is focused on meaningful work, engaged in purposeful activity, committed to growth and contribution, it sends signals of vitality throughout every cell of your being. But when your mind becomes idle, when purpose disappears, when you accept stagnation as your new reality, your body receives a different message entirely. It begins the process of shutting down, not because it must, but because it believes you no longer need its full power. Think of a fire that's carefully tended versus one that's been abandoned. The tended fire burns bright and strong, consuming fuel efficiently, providing warmth and light for hours. The abandoned fire smolders, weakens, and eventually dies out completely, leaving only cold ashes where life once thrived. Your sense of purpose is the fuel that keeps your inner fire burning. Your disciplined daily actions are the careful tending that maintains that flame. Without these, your body begins the slow process of surrender that most people mistake for normal aging. I once knew a woman who, at the age of 68, was diagnosed with a condition that typically devastated people half her age. Her doctors prepared her for a long, difficult decline. But she made a decision that shocked everyone around her. Instead of accepting defeat, she committed herself to writing a book that would help other women facing similar challenges. Every morning she would wake with purpose burning in her chest. She had work to do, people to help, a message to deliver. Her body, receiving these signals of continued necessity, of ongoing mission, began to respond in ways that baffled her medical team. Her energy returned, her symptoms stabilized. Her mind remained sharp and focused. 5 years later, not only had she completed her book, but she had started a foundation that helped thousands of women. Her condition, while not cured, had become a manageable aspect of a life filled with meaning rather than a sentence of decline. This is the protective power of disciplined purpose. When your mind is engaged in work that matters, when you maintain the discipline of daily progress toward meaningful goals, when you refuse to accept that your best days are behind you, your body responds with remarkable resilience. Here's your practice of protective discipline. Identify one project, one cause, one area of growth that genuinely excites you and commit to working on it every single day. Not because you have to, but because you choose to remain actively engaged in creating value. Notice how this sustained sense of purpose affects not just your mood, but your physical energy, your sleep, your appetite, your overall sense of vitality. You're not just pursuing a goal, you're programming your body for continued strength and health. A disciplined mind engaged in meaningful work is the greatest insurance policy against premature decline you can possibly possess. You stand now at a threshold that millions of people never even approach. Not the threshold of completion, but the threshold of true beginning. Everything you've discovered today about mastering your mind, about developing unshakable self-discipline, about transforming your inner world to create your outer reality, this is not information to be consumed and forgotten. This is the foundation upon which you will build the rest of your life. The person who began listening to these words and the person who exists in this moment are not the same. Something has shifted in your understanding, in your awareness of what's possible, in your recognition of the power that has always existed within you. You cannot unknow what you now know. You cannot return to unconscious living once you've tasted the freedom of conscious choice. But here's what separates those who transform their lives from those who merely collect insights. The understanding that this moment right now is not an ending, but a daily beginning. Every sunrise offers you the same choice. Will you govern your mind, or will you let your mind govern you? Will you plant seeds of strength, or will you scatter seeds of weakness? Picture a river that has discovered its true course after wandering aimlessly for miles. It doesn't celebrate and then stop flowing. Instead, it moves with new purpose, cutting deeper channels, gathering strength, becoming more powerful with every mile traveled. The river doesn't question its direction anymore. It simply flows with absolute certainty toward its destination. Your disciplined mind is that river, and today you have found your true course. The practices you've learned, the principles you've embraced, the commitment you've made to yourself, these become the banks that guide your flow toward everything you're meant to become. Each morning when you wake, you have the opportunity to choose strength over weakness, purpose over drift, consciousness over reaction. These choices, made consistently over time, become the invisible force that shapes your destiny. If you're ready to continue this journey of transformation, to go deeper into the principles that separate achievers from dreamers, then stay connected to this path of growth. Subscribe now, because what we've explored today is just the beginning of what's possible when you truly master the most powerful force in your life. The river of your potential flows eternally forward. Your only choice is whether you will direct its course.